welcome back to a chapter a day. Happy Friday. Oh my gosh, I don't know why, but for some reason I feel so like I just can take a deep breath. Honestly, I have had a full week of just working, which is good. And I don't mean working to get paid, just helping out someone as they try to put their home together. And I love it. I painted, yeah. I did some painting this week and some other work around my own home, and it feels good. Plus I got out and I got my walking done. I did like 4 miles, to and from, twice for the week. And usually I do a walking 1 mile in between at home on my walk pad, plus some other little exercises, just trying to keep physically active. Hey, these bodies are meant to move. We gotta move them somehow. When I was younger and in the world, I loved to dance, so I would go to parties and I'd move, dance. I don't do that anymore, but I do work out. And sometimes they have music, which I don't want to hear, so I take it off and I move anyway. But we are meant to move. And when we feel like we need to take a break, that's when we sit back and relax. Okay. With all that said, I pray you had a blessed week and that things are going well with you. And I have had some setbacks this week financially, and I was like not happy. Yesterday I was like kind of arguing with God as to what's really going on and why, but I know why. Sometimes if we're honest with ourselves and we are in touch with God, God will use His Spirit to bring to our hearts exactly why we are in certain situations. And if we are honest, we will understand where God is coming from, learn the lesson, and strive to do better. We are God's representatives, and when we don't do right, He corrects us, and sometimes we don't like it. Remember David? He got it harsh, okay? Because he did terribly wrong. Okay, with that said, I'm going to be reading 2 chapters of Isaiah today, 14 and 15, because 15 is short. So let's get started. Okay. For the Lord will have mercy on Jacob, and will yet choose Israel, and set them in their own land, and the strangers shall be joined with them, and they shall cleave to the house of Jacob. And the people shall take them, and bring them to their place, and the house of Israel shall possess them in the land of the Lord for servants and handmaids. Wow. And they shall take them captives, whose captives they were, and they shall rule over their oppressors. So when Israel was once a captive, she will be having captors herself, okay? And they shall become their servants. Verse 3. And it shall come to pass in the day that the Lord shall give thee rest from thy sorrow. Don't we all need that? And from thy fear, and from the hard bondage wherein thou wast made to serve. Thou that shalt take up this proverb against the king of Babylon, and say, how had the oppressor ceased? The golden city ceased. And remember, Babylon was a magnificent city. Think of one of them, maybe like Dubai, if you want to think about a magnificent city with all kinds of things that you can look around at and be amazed. That was Babylon. And they captured Jerusalem because that was God's punishment for Jerusalem, for turning away from Him to idolatry. Verse 5. The Lord hath broken the staff of the wicked, and the scepter of the rulers. He who smote the people in wrath with a continual stroke. He that ruled the nations in anger is persecuted, and none hindereth. The whole earth is at rest and is quiet. They break forth into singing. I know some of us cannot even imagine a world without trouble. Some people are born into trouble, into wars. Think about those children who are born into wars. Every day, that's all they know, hearing bombs and gunshots and seeing people die. It's horrible, but that's what some people are born into. Can you imagine if they were to get to heaven and experience a peace that is beyond understanding? Mercy. Verse 8. Yea, the fir trees rejoice at thee, and the cedars of Lebanon, saying, since thou art laid down, no fellow is come up against us. Hell from beneath is moved for thee, to meet thee at thy coming. It stirreth up the dead for thee. even all the chief ones of the earth. It hath raised up from their thrones all the kings of the nations. Again, I'm going to refer to what is called the Battle of Armageddon. This is when this is going to be happening. After we spend 1,000 years in heaven with God, Jesus is coming back with the new city, Jerusalem. And the wicked, Satan as the leader, all the big leaders of the world who have just done hateful and heinous things to humans, they are going to be joining him to come up against that city and against Jesus, and that's when the battle will be on. That's when fire will rain down from heaven, and that is when hell will be an existing thing. That's when they will be burned up, because they are still trying to get to God's people. Okay, verse 10. All they shall speak and say unto thee, art thou also become weak as we? Art thou become like unto us? Thy pomp is brought down to the grave, and the noise of thy vials, the worm is spread under thee, and the worms cover thee. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? Okay, this is another verse I say that somehow its placement just does not seem to ring through with what I have read in this chapter. It's very similar to the ones that address Jesus's birth. It just seems to be just placed in there, and it seems to have no relation to those before or after it. Well, some after it, but the ones before. But, you know. Verse 13, for thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Some preachers say Satan had an I problem, because everything was about himself, wanting to take the place of the Creator God. Really? Come on. That makes me so annoyed. And there are people in this world who do that. They want to take your place for whatever reason. They want to displace you and be in charge of whatever it is you're in charge of. Pray. You have to pray about people like that, because that's very satanic. Verse 15, yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. They that see thee shall narrowly look upon thee, and consider thee, saying, is this the man that made the earth to tremble, that did shake kingdoms, that made the world as a wilderness, and destroyed the cities thereof, that opened not the house of his prisoners? All the kings of the nations, even all of them, lie in glory, every one in his own house. But thou art cast out of thy grave like an abominable branch, and as the raiment of those that are slain, thrust through with a sword, that go down to the stones of the pit, as a carcass trodden under feet. Thou shalt not be joined with them in burial, because thou hast destroyed thy land, and slain thy people. The seed of evildoers shall never be shall never be renowned. Prepare slaughter for his children, for the iniquity of their fathers, that they do not rise, nor possess the land, nor fill the face of the world with cities. That means they shall be no more. When Satan is destroyed, that's it. That's the fire. That's the eternal burning fire that is talked about. It's not that it's going to be eternal, but it's going to be, how many years, how many centuries, how many millennia has Satan been on this earth doing what he's been doing? You think he's just going to burn up like a piece of paper? Satan's rebellion began in heaven. Remember that. Verse 22, for I will rise up against them, saith the Lord of hosts, and cut off from Babylon the name, and remnant, and son, and nephew, saith the Lord. I will also make it a possession for the bittern, and pools of water, and I will sweep it with the besom of destruction, saith the Lord of hosts. The Lord of hosts hath sworn, saying, surely as I have thought, so shall it come to pass, and as I have purposed, so shall it stand. That I will break the Assyrian in my land, and upon my mountains tread him underfoot. Remember, this whole message that Isaiah is prophesying here is based on the fact that Assyria and Ephraim, I think one other, Syria maybe too, have come up against Judah and Jerusalem to battle against them. Okay? Okay. Then shall his yoke depart from off them, and his burden depart from off their shoulders. This is the purpose that is purposed upon the whole earth, and this is the hand that is stretched out upon all the nations. Verse 27, for the Lord of hosts hath purposed, and who shall disannul it? And in his hand is stretched out, and who shall turn it back? In the year that King Ahaz died with this burden, rejoice not thou, whole Palestina, because the rod of him that smote thee is broken. For out of the serpent's root shall come forth a cockatrice, and his fruit shall be a fiery flying serpent. You know, sometimes when one leader is out, people rejoice and say, oh, good thing that person is gone. But you know, sometimes the person that replaces is even worse. Sometimes, you know, we need to remember the Lord said, do not follow a multitude to do evil. Because sometimes when you think to yourself that that majority is right in what they're doing, it is never so. You're going to wreak more trouble than you had before. I've seen it too many times. Verse 30. And the firstborn of the poor shall feed, and the needy shall lie down in safety. And I will kill thy root with famine, and he shall slay thy remnant. Howl, O gate, cry, O city, thou whole Palestina art dissolved. For there shall come from the north a smoke, and none shall be alone in his appointed times. What shall one then answer the messengers of the nation? That the Lord hath founded Zion, and the people and the poor of his people shall trust in it. Whew, that's the end of chapter 14. Word to Jerusalem. We are this world. We are like Jerusalem in that we have turned away from God. God's people, this world, we are God's children. Satan didn't create us. Satan can't create anything. God is the only creator. We have turned against God and gone to Satan. This is for us. Chapter 15. The burden of Moab, because in the night hour of Moab is laid waste, and brought to silence. Because in the night, Ker of Moab is laid waste and brought to silence. Now what God is showing here is his vengeance on all the nations that came against Jerusalem. Even though God allowed Jerusalem to suffer punishment from her enemies, God is not going to just not let them ever revive or recover. He is going to bring judgment on those wicked nations. Verse 2. He is gone up to Bajith and to Dibon, the high places, to weep. Moab shall howl over Nebo and over Medeba, and all their heads shall be baldness, and every beard cut off. In their streets they shall gird themselves with sackcloth. On the tops of their houses and in their streets every one shall howl, weeping abundantly. And Heshbon shall cry, and Elealeh, their voice shall be heard, even unto Jahaz. Therefore the armed soldiers of Moab shall cry out. His life shall be grievous unto him. My heart shall cry out for Moab. Remember, Moab, I think, was one of those nations that when the children of Israel were passing through the wilderness to go to their promise to Canaan, they refused to allow them to go through. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure if some of them, they attacked some of them, the ones who were behind, but this is what is happening here. Verse 5, my heart shall cry out for Moab, his fugitives shall flee unto Zoar, an heifer of 3 years old. For by the mountain up of Luhith with weeping shall they go it up. For in the way of Horonaim they shall raise up a cry of destruction. For the waters of Nimrim shall be desolate, for the hay is withered away. The grass faileth, there is no green thing. Sounds like a famine. Therefore the abundance they have gotten, and that which they have laid up, shall they carry away to the brook of the willows. For the cry is gone round about the borders of Moab, the howling thereof unto Eglon, and the howling thereof unto Beeralim. For the waters of Dimon shall be full of blood, For I will bring more upon Dimon, lions upon him that escapeth of Moab, and upon the remnant of the land. Now, some of these names mentioned here are other cities and other places that were existing back then. That's the end of chapter 15. So I have covered chapters 14 and 15, and it looks like I might be able to do 2 chapters tomorrow again, or maybe the next day. So that's it for today. I never like to talk about tomorrow because that's not promised to me. So until we read again, take care. Thank you all for subscribing. Thank you all for viewing. And I pray that you're following along with your own Bibles whenever you can. Okay? So have a great weekend, and may God continue to work in your life. Grant you the blessings you stand in need of. Keep listening, because that's how our faith comes and grows. Take care.